I was on duty when the humans stopped being background noise and became a warning. My name is Krexel, third-tier cultural observer assigned to the Interstellar Concord Station, Helios Spire. For 20 standard cycles, my job had been to watch civilizations talk instead of fight, to catalog gestures, tones, pauses, everything species did to avoid killing each other. It was dull work. Necessary, yes, but dull, until the humans arrived. They entered the Concord 5 cycles ago, late to the galactic stage, dragging their entire civilization behind them like an unfinished sentence, bipedal, soft-skinned, no natural armor, no claws worth mentioning, forward-facing eyes that never stopped looking directly at you, as if measuring something you didn't know you were offering. They smiled too much. Their first envoy Daniel Rourke, committed what many of us considered a diplomatic crime during his opening address. He told a story, not a legend, not a historical triumph, a joke, something about a malfunctioning airlock and a maintenance drone. The translation matrices struggled. No one laughed. Rourke laughed anyway, a loud, uncontrolled sound that echoed through Helios Spire's resonance halls. The silence afterward felt thinner, like something fragile had cracked. The Velkar ascendancy noticed too. The Velkar were an old power, militarized, disciplined, bitter. They had lost 3 expansion wars to Concord intervention and had never forgiven the bureaucracy for it. Their fleets had once ruled entire spiral arms. Now they were constrained by treaties and resentment. Humans fascinated them. A developing species, Velkar warlord Sethrak said during a closed session, his mandibles clicking with disdain. No unified fleet doctrine. No hardened planetary shields. They still launch mass-based vessels. Mass-based, as in rockets, chemical propulsion. Several delegates laughed. The human envoy smiled and said nothing. That should have worried us. Tensions grew slowly. Always slowly, the Velkar tested borders, seized unmapped resources, delayed shipments. The humans responded with filings, mediations, appeals. They quoted Concord law better than species who had written it. They don't act like a Deathworld species. My colleague Lyneth whispered once, her frilled crest twitching. Their planet reportedly produces storms that flatten continents. Maybe they learned restraint, I said. I was wrong. The breaking point came during what the Velkar called a demonstration of order, a public broadcast meant to display their civilizational superiority. Concord approved it. A goodwill display, they claimed. It was broadcast across 39 systems. I watched from my quarters, distracted, reviewing cultural impact logs. The Velkar showed their cities, their fleets, their war academies, predictable, tedious. Then they showed the subjects, species absorbed before Concord oversight, bound by neural limiters, displayed as examples of uplifted compliance. Uncomfortable but technically legal under ancient loopholes. Then the screen shifted. A human adolescent stood at the center of the chamber. Not fully grown, maybe 12 local years. Thin. One arm held stiffly at her side. A suppression collar glowed faintly around her neck. My secondary heart skipped. This individual, Sethrak announced, was recovered from an illegal human research outpost operating within Velkar sovereign space. Illegal? I checked the logs. There was no such ruling. The adults resisted, he continued calmly. They were terminated. This juvenile remains instructive. The girl raised her head. Her eyes met the camera. Forward-facing, focused. Envoy Rourke's feed appeared in a side window. His face had gone unnaturally still, like a statue carved mid-breath. She is a Concord civilian, Rourke said quietly. Her name is Alyssa Grant. Release her now. Sethrak laughed. You mistake tolerance for weakness, mammal. Your species has no leverage. Please, Rourke said. The word didn't sound like a tactic. It sounded like a fracture. Sethrak drew a disruptor blade. Live. Broadcasting. No, someone near me whispered. The girl spoke before anyone else could. My dad told me the stars were full of people, she said. Voice steady, too steady. I hope some of them are kind. The blade activated. Light. Then nothing. The feed cut. Helios Spire erupted into chaos. Emergency assemblies. Priority signals. Threats layered over fear. Rourke did not attend a single session. Instead, a message appeared on every Concord channel. Authenticated, unfiltered. You have 1 standard cycle to reconsider who you think we are. The Velkar mocked it. 1 cycle passed. Nothing happened. They declared dominance restored. That's when Concord sensors detected 41 human vessels entering high slip at the edge of Velkar core space. Not warships, retrofits, mining frames, cargo hulls. Improvised, the lead vessel broadcast openly. This is Fleet Marshal Elena Cade of the United Human Compact. All non-Velkar traffic evacuate. You have 6 hours. The Velkar fleet mobilized. 600 warships. I watched from Helios Spire's war chamber. Surrounded by species who believed in numbers, they still didn't understand humans. The human ships didn't fire first. They released mass. Objects accelerated beyond predictive models. No energy signatures. No warning. Velocity became the weapon. Velkar shields collapsed like paper. Within minutes, space filled with debris. Fleet Marshal Cade spoke once more. You took a child to prove a point, she said evenly. Now we will prove ours. And that was only the beginning. The galaxy expected extermination. That was the strange part. When the Velkar warfleet collapsed into burning fragments, when 6 centuries of military doctrine disintegrated in vacuum, most observers assumed the humans would finish the job, that they would turn their improvised armada toward the Velkar, homeworld, and erase it the way angry gods erase mistakes. Many of us feared it. Some of us almost hoped for it. Because genocide, as horrifying as it is, fits into known models. It can be cataloged, condemned, sanctioned, explained. What the humans did instead was far worse. They stopped. The remaining Velkar civilian traffic fled the system in panic. Refugee lanes clogged with ships carrying families who had never supported Sethrak's regime, who had never seen Alyssa Grant except as a blurred image on a broadcast they would regret watching for the rest of their lives. The humans let them go. 6 hours passed exactly, down to the microsecond. Then the human fleet moved, not inward but sideways. Their vessels repositioned into high-orbit lattices, deploying structures that Concord sensors initially misidentified as communication arrays. They were not. They were judgment platforms. Fleet Marshal Cade addressed the Concorde directly. Her image transmitted without distortion, without flourish. We are not here to punish a species, she said. We are here to conclude a crime. The Velkar Provisional Council, what remained of it, began, transmitting frantic apologies, offers of surrender, reparations, hostages, technology transfers. Cade did not respond. Instead, the platforms activated. What followed became known across Concord history as the Narrow Ledger. The humans had not come blindly. They had come with names. Their systems unfolded data at speeds our analysts could barely comprehend. Every individual connected to Alyssa Grant's capture was identified. Border officers, detention staff, intelligence analysts, logistics clerks, command signatories, broadcast technicians, even the legal advisors who had argued the execution would discourage further incursions. Each name was verified 3 times. No assumptions, no approximations, no collective guilt, only causality. I watched as pinpoint strikes fell across the Velkar capital. Not explosions, not bombardments, single impacts, precision penetrators that passed through shielding, stone and steel to end one life at a time. No collateral damage, no missed targets. Entire buildings remained standing, windows unbroken, while a single office inside was reduced to silence. 312 individuals. That was the final count. Not one more, not one less. The Velkar military infrastructure was dismantled but not destroyed. Shipyards disabled. Command nodes erased. Weapon platforms deactivated. Their capacity for organized violence removed like a tumor. Carefully, deliberately. Then the humans stopped again. No occupation, no flags, no declarations of dominance. Fleet Marshal Cade transmitted one final message. This matter is concluded. The Velkar people are not our enemy. Those who chose cruelty are gone. Learn from them. And then the fleet withdrew. Just like that. Helios Spire descended into chaos of a different kind. Delegates screamed about precedent, about fear, about what it meant that a young species could unmake an empire and leave without claiming anything. They acted as executioners, one avian delegate shrieked. Outside Concord authority? They followed causality-based response models, another argued. No civilian harm, no expansion. They terrify me, Lyneth whispered beside me. Because they stopped. I couldn't answer her. Because she was right. The Velkar were broken, not conquered, but exposed. Their citizens learned in one horrifying moment that the galaxy would not protect monsters wearing the mask of civilization, that treaties did not shield crimes broadcast as entertainment. And the humans? They returned to conquered space quietly. Envoy Rourke resumed his seat 2 cycles later. He looked older. Not physically. Humans age slowly by galactic standards, but something had settled behind his eyes, something heavy and permanent. When questioned by the High Assembly, he didn't defend the attack. He explained it. "We did not seek revenge," he said calmly. "We sought closure." "Closure does not require war," the chair being snapped. "No," Rourke replied, "but it requires consequence." The chamber fell silent. I requested a private audience with him 3 days later. I didn't know why. Perhaps guilt, perhaps curiosity, perhaps fear. The human ship Wayfarers. Resolve was docked on the outer ring, scarred, repaired hastily, still carrying the marks of recent violence. Rourke greeted me himself. "Crexil," he said warmly, as if we were old colleagues and not survivors of a political earthquake. "I'm glad you came." "I don't understand your species," I admitted as we walked. "You could have destroyed them. Everyone expected it." He nodded. "So did we." That stopped me. Inside the ship, the environment was lived in, tools half secured, personal items taped to bulkheads, drawings, music, playing softly from somewhere unseen. "You expected to destroy them?" I asked. "Yes," he said simply, and that terrified us. We sat in a small observation alcove overlooking open space. "When Alyssa died," Rourke continued, "something old woke up, something humanity has spent centuries trying to bury." I said nothing. "For a brief moment," he said, staring into the stars, "we remembered how easy it is to hate, how efficient, how comforting." "You chose restraint," I said. "No," he corrected gently. "We chose structure. Restraint implies peace. We weren't peaceful. We were furious." He looked at me then, truly looked. "So we built rules fast enough to cage the anger before it became annihilation." I felt my carapace tighten. "And if you hadn't?" I asked. Rourke smiled faintly. "Then there would be no Velkar left to argue about legality." The silence stretched. Finally, I asked the question that had haunted me since the broadcast. "Why come back to the Concord at all?" He leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Because we need witnesses," he said, "and because we know what we are without them." I left the Wayfarers' resolve hours later, carrying a truth that made my internal organs ache. Humanity wasn't dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they knew exactly how violent they could become, and were desperately trying not to be. And the galaxy had nearly pushed them past that. Line history books claim the crisis ended with the destruction of the Velkar command network. That is a lie. The violence stopped, yes, but the danger did not. It only changed shape. In the cycles following the narrow ledger, the Conquered did what it always did when confronted with something it didn't understand. It panicked. Emergency sessions were called daily. Subcommittees bred faster than bacteria. New doctrines were proposed, rejected, reworded, and buried under procedural noise. Every species spoke at once, all asking the same question in different languages. What do we do about the humans? Some demanded sanctions. Others wanted monitoring fleets placed near human colonies. A few, usually the younger species, suggested alliance, citing the humans' restraint as proof of maturity. But beneath every argument was fear, because the humans had not asked permission. They had not waited for authorization. They had simply acted with terrifying clarity. Envoy Rourke attended every session. He listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, he was polite, precise, unemotional. That made it worse. "Your actions destabilized 3 sectors," one delegate accused. "Correct," Rourke replied. "So did the broadcasted execution of a child." "You've demonstrated you can dismantle an empire in hours," another said. "That makes you a threat." Rourke nodded. "Yes, it does." The chamber erupted. I watched from the observer tiers, my data slates forgotten in my grip. The humans were not denying it. They were owning it. That was when the chair being invoked Article Black 9, a measure so rarely used it existed mostly as a footnote in Concord law, a full containment vote. If passed, humanity would be restricted from military development, subject to invasive inspections, and placed under permanent oversight by Concord enforcement fleets. Effectively leashed. The vote was scheduled for 72 hours later. I requested another private meeting with Rourke. This time he didn't smile. You should vote for containment, he told me bluntly before I even spoke. I froze. What? If your species believes it will keep the peace, he said, you should vote yes. That would cripple your sovereignty, I said. It would make you second-class members. He shrugged. Better than becoming first-class monsters. The words chilled me. What aren't you telling the council? I asked. He looked tired. So profoundly tired. Come with me, he said. He took me to a secure briefing room aboard the human diplomatic vessel Common Thread. No guards, no dramatics, just a sealed door and a projection field. I'm showing you this because you're an observer, he said.